FabFilter's Pro Q3 is one of the most popular EQ choices for many mixing engineers, but beyond its easy-to-use interface and simple controls lies a bunch of overlooked or hidden features you should really take advantage of. So let's go over each one, and I'll show you some great ways you can put these to work in your own mixers. And just a quick side note, this video is in no way sponsored by FabFilter, I just wanted to highlight some of my favourite features from this very popular plugin. First we have the piano roll. Now I can't quite remember if this is turned on or not by default, as I've had this plugin for so long. You can enable it by clicking on the small piano keys icon in the bottom left hand corner of the plugin window. The keys that are highlighted represent the layout of an 88 key grand piano spanning from A0, which is around 27.5 Hz, all the way up to C8, which is about 4.1 kHz. This tool allows you to visualize and edit the frequency spectrum of your audio in a very precise manner. By simply picking a note from the piano roll and then double clicking this, it will automatically create an EQ bell at the exact frequency of your chosen note. And say you want to get hyper specific with the area you want to boost or cut, or maybe you're really trying to zone in on what note the fundamental frequency is in your kick drum, then you can actually click on any of the keys, drag upwards, and this will zoom in the plugin interface. So this makes finding the fundamental note of any instrument super easy. You can also do this when the piano roll is disabled by simply clicking and then dragging the frequency dial upwards, which you can find at the very bottom of the plugin window. So for instance, if I drop this kick sample into my DAW and then load up an instance of Pro Q3, I can see that most of the low end energy is below 200 Hz, and more specifically is peaking between around 40 to 100 Hz. So by using the piano roll, I can again click and drag upwards to zoom in on this area to get an even closer look at where the lowest fundamental of my kick drum lies. You can also drag the piano roll left to right to adjust the view once you're fully zoomed in. So now I can see that the very peak of my kick drum lies between around A#1 to F#2. I've used the freeze function here so we can have a closer look at the peak of our kick drum. I'll be going over that function shortly, but for now we can determine the exact frequency of this kick drum by double clicking on a piano note, creating a very narrow bell, boosting around 3 dB of gain, and then sweeping this until you really feel that low fundamental frequency jump out at you. If you click and hold on a dot that's been created, you can move this note by note on the piano roll for added control. So to my ear, I'd say this kick drum's fundamental frequency is most probably C#2, as when I go one note above this to D2, the resonance sounds a little dissonant to my ear. And one note below this, at C2, the resonance sounds much weaker. Yet moving over to C#2, the resonance sounds the most natural to me. A good way to describe this sound is similar to that of when you return to the tonic chord when playing a progression on a piano or guitar. And that's just one use for this great feature. It's also very handy for boosting or cutting harmonics out of a signal. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to use a pure sine wave and saturate it so you can more easily see the added harmonics. Then you can take what you learn from this and apply it to some real world examples. So here I'm using a tone generator to generate a sine wave at C3, which is about 130 Hz. If I run this through some saturation, let's say we want to generate some even order harmonics, I can choose to use a tube saturation on this plugin, as I know it should then generate even order or second degree harmonics from the fundamental of my sine wave. We can verify this in the Pro Q3 plugin window using the technique I've just shown you. So zooming in, we can see that the fundamental is peaking at C3 on the piano roll, and then the saturation I've just applied has produced harmonics at C4, G4, C5, and so on. These are all even order harmonics derived from the sine wave's fundamental frequency. So say you like the sound of some of these added harmonics, but wanted to reduce the sound of others, you could then select the ones that you want to reduce, again by clicking specific keys on the piano roll, which then create these coloured dots, and then you can highlight all of these points by clicking and dragging over top of them, attenuate to taste by adjusting the Q and reducing the gain button. The next feature is the auto gain adjustment. To find and then enable this, you need to hover your cursor over the output level adjuster, which you can find in the bottom right hand side of the plugin window. Once you do this, you'll notice that these three options appear. The one we want is in the middle, which is represented by the A button. So click on this to enable the auto gain function within Pro Q3. And if it's not already, you can also enable the output level meter, as we'll be using this shortly. So what's great about this setting? Well, if you've ever struggled with maintaining consistent levels while making EQ adjustments, this intelligent function automatically compensates for any gain changes, ensuring that your perception of the sound remains constant. So we can quickly test this out first by applying a steep boost or cut to any audio source. In this case, I'm going to use a space track. So if we monitor the output level meter towards the right hand side of the plugin, you can see it's currently peaking around -10 dB, and that no matter how severe of a cut or boost I apply, this level remains constant. Whereas if I disable this function and do a similar process, you can see that the output volume changed dramatically based on how much I'm cutting or boosting certain frequencies. By enabling this function before you start EQing, it can really help you out whenever you're trying to precisely shape the tone of any given instrument. Fluctuations in volume can often throw your ears off when adjusting the frequencies of a track, so having this constant level completely eliminates that problem. I often find this feature is most helpful when there's a specific frequency area that seems to be dominating the sound of a recording, so I'll enable the auto gain function first before I start adjusting the EQ to really hone in on this problem area. For instance, I have this drum track here that sounds a little boxy for my liking, so I'll enable the auto gain function and start hunting for this problem area. To my ear, it's really this 400 Hz area that seems to be causing this build-up, so I'll remove some of this by applying a wide bell cut and then A/B this to see if this sounds any better. And remember, the auto gain function is still enabled, so we won't need to compensate for this cut using the output gain function like you usually would with a lot of EQs. But before we move on, if you want to get your mixes to sound like professional songs, check out the Sage Audio membership. As a member, I have to say it's an incredible experience. Just for signing up, you receive 53 mastered songs per year with your own dedicated mastering engineer, direct one-on-one mentorship that's tailored towards your specific mixing needs, unlimited mixing feedback to help improve your mixes, access to Sage Audio University's in-depth mixing and mastering courses, and a lot more, but more on that at the end of the video. Next up, we have the Freeze Spectrum button. I briefly touched on this during the piano roll section, and it's really good for applications like that when you're in the midst of fine-tuning a complex sound, but the spectrum keeps shifting, making it challenging to pinpoint the exact frequencies you want to boost or attenuate. So by enabling this button, it'll take a quick snapshot of your audio so you can more easily fine-tune your settings. To enable this, go down to where it says Pre and Post, and let your cursor hover over this. Now you should see 5 buttons appear as you do this. The one we want is at the very start, which is indicated by the snowflake symbol. Usually I'll run the audio for a few seconds as the plugin fine-tunes this snapshot to the most accurate representation of your audio signal. And then once it's done, you can pause playback and start analysing your signal. This function really works hand in hand with the Spectrum Grab button. So going back to that same menu and then clicking the next button beside the freeze function, you can then enable this too. So now if you hover your cursor over the frozen audio, it will turn purple and highlight any large peaks of your audio signal. So you can see the highlighted peaks in this orangey yellow colour. If you then click one of these, it will allow you to grab that specific peak and either boost or attenuate as needed. I find that the freeze function, coupled with the Spectrum Grab feature, is really great for taming harsh, whistling frequencies on something like an electric guitar. These instruments are known for having a few annoying ringing frequencies, especially when dealing with heavily distorted tones. So on this guitar, I'm going to use the freeze function to help identify a few of those more irritating frequencies. Of course, you can do all this by ear too, but this plugin can help speed up the process, especially if your ear isn't as developed yet, or if you suffer from hearing loss. Then we can hover over this once again, and the Spectrum Grab function is displaying a bunch of peaks in this guitar signal. So I'm just going to grab a couple of these and pull them down to see if this sounds any better. I think in this case, it's actually done a very accurate job at identifying the frequencies I was taking issue with. So I'm just going to adjust these cuts so that they're not so extreme, and then A/B this for you so you can hear the difference. And lastly, we have the gain scale function. You can find this down near the bottom right hand side of the plugin window, and once again hover over this with your cursor until you see the slider appear. And what's cool about this one specific function is that it basically turns your regular EQ into more of a hyper-specific mastering EQ, or at least that's how I found the most amount of use out of this function. By sliding it to the left, thus reducing the overall gain scale percentage, the plugin is giving you more enhanced control over how specific you want these EQ moves to sound, which is why I mentioned using it for mastering purposes, as you typically want to make more subtle and precise changes when mastering, which can be done by reducing the gain scale in the plugin. As you can see here, I'm boosting at what would normally be equivalent to a 10 dB boost, but as I had the gain scale set to 25%, it's actually only being boosted by around 3 decibels. So let's use this in a real world situation. On this song I've been sent to master. I feel like the low end and high end could both do with a subtle lift, so I'm going to scale the gain in by around 30% and apply 2 EQ boosts to each area to enhance the overall sound of my master. I'll play you both the before and after so you can hear how this function makes performing precise and subtle moves that much easier.
I'm waking up and shutting down from looking at my bank account. This daily grind I'm doing fine. God damn, it's such a waste of time. I'm waking up and shutting down from looking at my bank account. This daily grind I'm doing fine. God damn, it's such a waste of time.
As I mentioned earlier, if you want to get your mixes to sound like professional songs, check out the Sage Audio membership. As a member, I have to say it's an incredible experience. Just for signing up, you receive 53 mastered songs per year with your own dedicated mastering engineer, direct one-on-one mentorship that's tailored towards your specific needs, unlimited mixing feedback to help improve your mixes, and access to Sage Audio University for in-depth mixing and mastering courses. Your dedicated mastering engineer will learn your sound and craft masters specific to your preferences, and you'll also get unlimited revisions to ensure every master sounds exactly how you want. The one-on-one mentorship gives you personalized mixing guidance tailored towards your specific needs. Get all your questions answered with fast communication and receive unlimited advanced mixing feedback and suggestions for improvement. Coupled with the one-on-one mentorship, you also get access to Sage Audio University, where you'll find their in-depth mixing and mastering courses, walkthrough sessions for multiple genres, multi-track project files for hands-on practice, and a Sage Audio certification document for completing the courses. Additionally, you'll also be able to enter their mixing and mastering competitions to win prizes while growing your skills alongside a tight-knit group of audio engineers. Inside the membership, you'll have access to the Sage Audio community, which is full of passionate producers and engineers ready to have meaningful discussions, network, and collaborate. The membership also includes over 70 gigabytes of downloadable content, including mixing and mastering chains, multi-tracks for mixing practice, recommended free plugins, recommended paid plugins, and plugin presets. Furthermore, you get direct access to their full catalogue of 700 plus in-depth mixing and mastering videos specifically created to help you improve every aspect of your mixes. Every day I see great wins in the membership from producers and engineers, noticing a massive improvement in their mixes after joining. Use the link in the description today to join the Sage Audio membership and start creating mixes that sound like professional songs.